What's up, guys? It's Brandon here from the Manly Man channel. I decided to do a video just kind of by myself today. You might even be able to see the phone in the screen, maybe not. But if you see me looking off or looking down, looking at my phone for some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about. Essentially, holidays kind of got to us, so of course, I just want to apologize for the lack of videos the past few weeks. And Colton is now working a different job. He's no longer working with me. So we're trying to get all this scheduling right on getting the podcast back going. We will be doing those. Do not worry, guys. Kind of my fault. I've, like I said, just been really busy. But got to make more of a point of actually getting it done. I know we keep telling you guys, see you next week, things like that, and never follow through with it. So sorry about that. What I did want to do today is basically go over the college football playoffs that are happening today, and hopefully, even though my internet sort of sucks, it'll get the video done by the time these games take place, so that it's not 2 days later and just now got the video up. But I'll also be previewing the first round of the NFL playoffs. So this is really just sports themed in general. If you hear any background noise or stuff like that, that could be my kid and my wife. But let's just get right into it. So the first game we'll have this afternoon in the playoffs. Now there are other bowl games going on. At the time of filming this, Auburn's up 20-13 in the third quarter over UCF. South Carolina's beating Michigan 23-19, and Notre Dame is losing to LSU 7-3. So all three SEC teams are winning right now. They've had a pretty rough showing so far. So hopefully they'll hold on to those leads. Maybe get the SEC record back up a little bit. But I am going to record the screen on my iPhone for you guys as well. That way you can kind of see what I'm looking at. And really all I'm going to be doing is kind of looking at the ESPN app to get statistics for each team and things like that. And I'm going to break down kind of why I think which team will win. So the first game, you got Oklahoma versus Georgia. Technically, Oklahoma will be the home team, but this game is happening in the Rose Bowl, so in California. Neither team really with an extreme advantage. Obviously, it's closer to Oklahoma, but don't really see that being. There's no home field advantage here. Matchup predictor actually has Georgia winning, which I don't think has been the case the entire week. So it shows right now Georgia with a 53.2% chance to win, Oklahoma with a 46.8%. Let's look at the stats of the team. So Jake Fromm, in a somewhat controversial topic for this year, has taken over as Georgia's new quarterback, and Jacob Eason is now on the bench due to injury. Okay, and Fromm has been excellent in taking over for him. He's 145 out of 230. You'll be able to see all this. I'll have all this stuff on the screen. But he's 145 out of 230 on his pass attempts. I don't know why they don't give you percentage here, but we can quickly break that down. So 145 out of 230. 63%. So that's pretty good, especially for a freshman, and a true freshman at that. He's got 2,173 yards passing, 21 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. That's very, very good for a freshman. He's taking great care of the ball this year. Would like to see the touchdown numbers a little bit higher, but I believe that's because of their running game, really, when it comes straight down to it. Nick Chubb, as you can see, is their leading rusher. He's got 191 carries for 1,175 yards and 13 touchdowns. And I wonder if it can... I was going to say if it could give me these stats for the other running back for Georgia. Gosh, his name's slipping my mind right now, too. Anyways, so you got Chubb, you got the two-headed monster there for Georgia. Let me see what his name is. Sonny Michel. Let's look at his stats. He has 131 carries. 131 carries for 948 yards. Let's see if we can see how many touchdowns he has this year. Also with 13 touchdowns. So you got 26 touchdowns from your two running backs in Georgia. The running game there is just ridiculous. Okay, you got two of the best. running backs in the SEC on the same team. So they're going to be able to run the ball, most likely. The way I look at it, I don't think Oklahoma will be big enough up front to really stop them from doing that. But I do believe they will have to pass to win the game. So this is going to be a big, Jake Fromm type of game. We'll leave off the receiver for Georgia because, as you can see, the receiving, there's no huge receiver. He's got 38 catches for 631 yards. Let's head on over and look at Baker Mayfield's stats. 262 of 369, 4,340 yards, 41 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. Excellent year from him. I personally believe he's the best quarterback coming out in the draft. We'll see. I usually am pretty good at telling which quarterback's going to be good. I actually have a bet with Austin, who you've seen on here before, that Marcus Mariota will have a better career than Jameis Winston. They both took a significant step back this year, specifically Mariota, but they did get to the playoffs, so we'll be covering them here in just a few minutes. But back to this game. Anderson for Oklahoma, 162 carries, 960 yards, and 11 touchdowns. So he's been solid. It's not to the level. I mean, Georgia's second running back has better stats than that, really and truly. So, in that sense, that's what I'm saying. Georgia's rushing game is much, much better, and the passing game is going to go to Oklahoma, simply because they have Baker Mayfield, if nothing else. Both teams are 12-1. It's 3 versus 2. I'm going to pick Georgia on this one, and it's simply because, I don't know if it's because I live in the South or whatever, but I believe the SEC is just better. Just bigger and stronger than most teams. Let's on the team stats, we'll take another glance at that right here, because this is another reason why I'm sort of leaning towards Georgia. So if you look at the points per game, there's a 10-point difference in points per game. Georgia at 34.9 points per game, Oklahoma at 44.9. But what's more interesting about that is the next stat down. It's points allowed per game. Georgia at only 13.2. That means they're holding their teams that they're playing against to under 14 points a game total for the season. Whereas Oklahoma is allowing 25. Okay? They're allowing 25 points per game. So plain and simple, it comes down to defense. If we look a little bit further down at the actual defensive numbers, we have yards allowed, a total of 270.9 per game for Georgia. I believe they're going to allow more than that this game. I believe Baker Mayfield himself will get very close to that, if not even past it. But the rushing yards, let's take a look over here. It's 384.8 for Oklahoma. That's how many yards they allow per game. 144 of that is rushing. Okay, and I'm just going to tell you straight up, they haven't played a team with 2 great running backs like Georgia. So they're going to give up some yards running the ball. Georgia should be able to take advantage of that exploitation there, I would say, with their 2 running backs. I really think that's going to be what it comes down to. It's going to be the running game for Georgia. If they get that established, they're going to take care and win the game. If they take care of the football, get the running game going, and hit the passes when they need to, because there's going to be moments. Oklahoma's going to hang in there. They can score with the best of them. They have 583.3 offensive yards per game. 367 of that is passing. Baker Mayfield is unstoppable when it comes to passing. So you're going to have to put up with that. But Georgia has just an excellent defense. So if anybody's going to be able to slow him down, it will be Georgia. And I think they'll hold him just close enough to allow their rushing game to basically take over for it. So let's go to the Alabama-Clemson game. I picked Georgia. I'm going to say the score will probably be 38-34. Okay, so that's my prediction for the Georgia game. Alabama-Clemson, we have Alabama is picked to win, 58.2% chance to win to Clemson's 41.8. Okay, we look at Jalen Hurts' stats. He's nothing. Maybe I'll catch him flag for this. He's nothing special with the ball. He's not really a passer. Just plain and simple, he's just another running back. Okay, they run a 5 running back system essentially in Alabama. Jalen Hurts threw the ball 222 times this year, completed 135 of those for 1,940 yards. He threw 15 touchdowns, which is incredibly low for a season. 1 interception. Takes care of the ball very well in the passing game. He does run the ball a lot, though. I believe the better quarterback is on the bench currently for Alabama. We have Harris is their leading rusher, but it really doesn't matter with Alabama. You know what you're getting. You got Harris, you got Najee Harris, so he's on the bench. But he most likely you'll see him run the ball a little bit too. Bo Scarborough. I mean, there's no shortage of running backs there. And Calvin Ridley is just a monster in the pass game. Jalen Hurts has thrown for a total of 1,940 yards, and Calvin Ridley has almost 900 of those. I mean, just himself. So that's crazy. He's basically he's nearly a half of their passing game, nearly. So he's got 55 catches, 896 yards, 3 touchdowns. Kelly Bryant over there for Clemson, 244 of 362, completes a high percentage. 2,678 yards passing. Also, not a very effective passer. Only 13 touchdowns on the year and 6 interceptions. So quarterback advantage, sadly, I believe, is actually going to go to Alabama. I believe Bryant probably has the ability to make more big plays in the passing game. Hurts doesn't seem to do that very much, but he takes care of the ball well. And you can't give up the ball and win this game. Whoever has the least turnovers in the game likely will win. Both defenses are just ridiculous. Let's go take a look at that now. Okay, so Alabama has been scoring 39.1 points per game. Clemson 35.4 points per game. Alabama is only allowing 11.5 points per game because they're just ridiculous. I'm a Tennessee fan, and we got their defensive coordinator this year as our head coach. And needless to say, I'm very, very excited for this. But Clemson only allowing 12.8, so really, I mean, it's a dead draw on points, and that Alabama maybe with the slightest of advantages, as you can tell by the numbers. But when it gets down to game time, that's a close enough margin where it's any given Saturday, or in this case, Monday. If we look at the total yards breakdown, Alabama has slightly higher on offense, 465 to 448. 200 of that comes through the air for Alabama and 265 on the ground, whereas Clemson, 244 comes through the air and 204 on the ground. Very balanced on both teams, 200 or more yards each way. Alabama with a little bit better rushing attack, but that's simply because they have so many people running the ball, and they're all very, very good. Just a ridiculous amount of 5 stars. Clemson maybe slightly even more balanced, I would say, in terms of pass versus run. Yards allowed, Alabama is allowing 257.8 on the year per game, 277.9 per game for Clemson. Alabama really, really stops the run, though, 94.1 yards allowed. If you really look at it here, you can see Alabama has the advantage on defense. Just plain and simple, they're going to have the advantage. It's not a crazy huge advantage, but there's certainly an advantage there. So who am I picking? I'm picking Alabama. I believe it's going to be an all-SEC final, and I'll do a video to cover that next week. Or whatever the final actually ends up being, I will do a video on it as we get closer to that game time. And I know for sure I don't want to make any predictions right now on things that aren't even going to happen, so there's no point in that. But I believe Alabama will handle this game. I think they're going to probably pull it out 24 to, 14. A solid little win. I don't expect it to be very high scoring, but I think Alabama will take care of business, and Nick Saban will be ready to face Kirby Smart in the finals. But we'll see what happens there. So that's kind of the end of the breakdown of college football. Let's go over now to the NFL. Saturday, January 6th, so this coming Saturday, Titans and Chiefs square off in the first game at 3:20 p.m. I'm a bit of a Titans fan. I really love Mariota, so hopefully they'll pull it out. Now let's kind of look into the game. We'll break down who has the advantages where, and I'll give my exact prediction, okay? So let's see. Okay. So, let's do the quick recording of it. Okay, so let's take a look at the game and see kind of who I think, what I think will happen, where I think the advantages and disadvantages are for each team, and so I'll go ahead and break that down for you guys. At quarterback, we obviously have Marcus Mariota for Tennessee and Alex Smith for Kansas City. Marcus Mariota, 281 of 453 this year, 3,232 passing yards, 13 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Absolutely atrocious year for Mariota throwing the football. Worst of his career. Hugely disappointing. Honestly, can't believe they've made the playoffs. I believe a lot of it does come down to play calling and lack of actual usable receivers in the passing game. But nonetheless, that's pretty horrible. And Jimmy Garoppolo has shown that you can make quite a bit more out of a lot less over in San Francisco. So he's definitely got to step it up. I'm beginning to worry a little bit about what he's going to be in the NFL as far as his skill level at quarterback. On the other side, we have Alex Smith. We thought maybe we had an MVP candidate when the year first started here in Alex Smith. And really, the numbers aren't terrible. He's never going to be a guy who blows you away, but he finished with 341 attempts, 341 completions on 505 attempts, 4,042 yards, which is not bad at all, especially for Alex Smith. I mean, that's pretty impressive. 26 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. He's classically done this, really taking care of the ball. He's never going to throw 30-something touchdowns. He's not a 40-touchdown guy. You're never going to get that out of him. But he will take care of the ball. You're not going to get 20 turnovers in a year. He just won't do that. If we take a look at the rushing, Derrick Henry is the leading rusher for the Titans. And I actually believe that this has been their weakest point of the year. DeMarco Murray was, second or third in the NFL last year in rushing. Probably like 1,400 yards, something like that. I'm not sure. I'm not going to go back and check either. But just an utter disappointment this year. It's time to move on from him. Derrick Henry might as well go ahead and have the show. I think there's some upside with Derrick Henry. I also don't think he's just anything excellent either. I think he's going to be a middle of the pack, maybe slightly above average back for us. But anyways, he's had 176 carries for 744 yards, 5 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt over there trying to get a Rookie of the Year. He's got 272 carries, 1,327 yards, and 8 touchdowns. I think the running game is definitely a slight advantage for Kansas City. Now, if we suddenly see a crazy flashback to 2016 in this game, then I believe the Titans would have the advantage. But I don't believe we're going to see that. Most likely, DeMarco Murray is going to be out. So it'll probably just Derrick Henry, which I believe is better anyways. But I don't think we're going to see 150 yards rushing or anything like that from the Titans. I think Henry could, get in the 80s, maybe 100, and that'd be an excellent game for him. Delaney Walker is the Titans' best receiver. That's kind of what I'm talking about. We got tight end leading the team in receiving yards for 2 straight years. 74 receptions, 807 yards, 3 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill for Kansas City, 75 catches, 1,183 yards, and 7 touchdowns. A little bit better in every single way there. But what's interesting is if we look at the injury report, I don't know if this is from last week that they're showing on here or not, but right now it shows Tyreek Hill out. If Tyreek Hill does not play in this game, that's a bit of a game changer. It's still showing DeMarco Murray out, which is why I don't know if it's updated or not. But for the Titans' sake, I hope that's true. Tyreek Hill is a bit of a game changer for them. He can do a lot of things, whether it's returns, anything like that. Very fast, very agile player, highly elusive, hard to tackle, zips in and out of the defense. Really take one play and he can change a game kind of player. So if he's out, that's a pretty big loss for Kansas City. Now we'll get straight down to the breakdown of things. I believe Kansas City will likely win the game. I think the play calling that Tennessee goes with is too conservative, too boring, and just poorly timed calls. You're going to see a lot of runs on 3rd and 5, things like that, and it's time to get a new coach in there. I say unfortunately, they did make the playoffs, that's great, but unfortunately what that allows is a pass for your coach. So most likely whenever they lose this game, he's still going to be the same coach next year, and that's, they're never going to get anywhere with that. Basically, first round of the playoffs is their ceiling. If Mariota has a crazy game, might get second round. You're not reaching a Super Bowl with this guy. Mike Mularkey is not good enough coach to reach the Super Bowl. Plain and simple. His play calling is atrocious. His offense is atrocious. It's not indicative to the current climate of the NFL. You need to pass more. You've got to have legitimate receivers to catch the ball. You can't do these it's just slow paced. It reminds me of watching Tennessee Volunteers play football. I picked Kansas City to win in a pretty tight game, 21-17. I hope that I'm not right. I would love to see the Titans continue on in the playoffs, but at the same time, sort of doubt it. Okay, so the NFC side of things for Saturday, we have the Falcons taking on the Rams. So I'm going to give you all my breakdown on the Falcons and the Rams game. Let's take a look at the quarterbacks, and I believe this would have been last year. It would have been quite a different conversation if we were talking about these two teams' quarterbacking situations. But this year we have Matt Ryan. He's completed 342 out of 529 passes, 4,095 yards, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Pretty boring year from Matt Ryan. Good on the yards again. He's always a pretty good yards monster. Helps having Julio Jones out there. I see his name down here at the end. We'll get to that a little bit. Low on the touchdowns this year for him. Very low. In my opinion, if you have a very good quarterback, he needs to be getting in the 30s. My daughter's very upset, I guess. Hello. Hey there. What are you doing? Yeah? Brief interruption there from my daughter. So yeah, Matt Ryan, only 20 touchdowns this year. I believe he should be in the 30s every single year. He's fully capable of that. Had a down year. Jared Goff, 296 completions on 477 attempts, 3,804 yards, 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He basically threw 4 touchdowns for every pick this year. And that's pretty incredible. Jared Goff took a massive step forward in his development. You got to think that's due to the coaching change in LA. Probably took much more advantage of what his strengths are rather than just saying, look, we don't care what you're good at. We're going to run things the way we've always ran them, sort of the Jeff Fisher way. And I think he really benefited from that change in coaching. We head down to rushing. I think it's pretty clear who has the advantage. Again, this will be a different story last year. It's quite crazy. This is really a tale of 2 years for these two teams. They didn't exactly swap places because the Rams were even much worse than that last year, but Atlanta really took a hit this year from being in the Super Bowl last year. They really went down. Devontae Freeman with 196 carries for 865 yards and 7 touchdowns. Does pretty good getting into the end zone. 7 touchdowns is certainly not terrible for a running back. But Todd Gurley with 279 carries, 1,305 yards, and 13 touchdowns. Todd Gurley had a bit of a setback last year. Don't know if it was a sophomore slump or what it was, but bounced back, to have a respectable season this year. Nothing just crazy incredible, but it's a good season nonetheless. Receiving, there's a definite clear advantage here to Atlanta. Julio Jones, likely the best receiver in all of football. 88 catches this year for 1,444 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, what strikes me to be a little bit weird is the lack of touchdowns by Julio. But that could be a Matt Ryan problem. We've got to get the ball. You've got to get the ball to him in the end zone. Toss it up. Let him go get it. He can outjump anybody out there. He will get the catch. So that's going to be one of the keys to the game for them if they want to win. Is you're going to have to hit Julio in the end zone, get him scoring some touchdowns. Probably 1 or 2 touchdowns at least is going to be required of Julio Jones in this game. Cooper Kupp, I think it's Cooper. Kupp, anyways, for the Rams. 62 catches, 869 yards, 5 touchdowns. They really spread the ball around a little bit more in LA. Going to get everybody involved. Just a really effective passing game. My prediction is that we're going to see the Rams win this game. I think they'll probably handle it just fine. Big bounce back from last year. I think they'll probably win 24-21. The Falcons just took way too much of a step back this year, and they're not going to get to see the Super Bowl this time around. Now, let's break down the Sunday games. We'll start off with the AFC once again as they play the early game, 12:05 p.m. Central Time. I'm in Central Time, so that's probably why it's giving me that time. So let's break down this game. We have Buffalo Bills taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Titans and the Buffalo Bills both had been out of the playoffs for quite a long time. It had been since, I think, 2008 for the Titans, and it had been like 17 years, so I think the year 2000 for Buffalo, since they had been in the playoffs. So that's pretty huge. Both those teams got into the playoffs this year. They also both have the lowest odds to win the Super Bowl this year if you're gambling. So let's take a look at the quarterback situation on these two teams. You have Tyrod Taylor facing off against Blake Bortles. 263 of 420 for Taylor. 2,799 yards passing, 14 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. On Bortles' side, we have 315 completions on 523 attempts, 3,687 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. The quarterback situation is not excellent on either team. Okay, Bortles, whenever he was drafted, I thought they probably got a bit of a steal in him. I thought he was going to be excellent in the NFL level. He hasn't quite done it yet. I think he shows flashes from time to time, but he's a bit inconsistent. However, having said that, I think he's more capable of making a big play than Tyrod Taylor, who is going to rely a little bit more on his feet. So we'll give the slightest of advantage. Well, you know what, we're going to call it a draw. It's a draw between the two quarterbacks. Rushing leaders, LaShawn McCoy, 287 carries, 1,138 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Leonard Fournette, 268 carries for 1,040 yards and 9 touchdowns. To me, I think McCoy got hurt, didn't he? Well, hopefully, if he's playing in the game, even if he is, Fournette will have the slight advantage over him. However, it'd be much closer, obviously, if McCoy is playing than if he's not. But we'll give the slight rushing advantage to Jacksonville. No standout receivers from either team. You have Clay getting 49 receptions for 558 yards and 2 touchdowns as their leading receiver in Buffalo. 42 receptions, 748 yards, and 3 touchdowns is Jacksonville's leader, Cole. The way I look at it, this game, Jacksonville's defense is going to be the key to the win here. They'll handle the Buffalo Bills. They're probably going to shut them down. I wouldn't expect to see more than 7 to 10 points from them, and I'd probably expect Jacksonville to put up about 20. We'll say the final of the game is 20-10. That's exactly what my prediction will be. And then we'll head on now to the Panthers and Saints. Maybe the best game out of the first round. New Orleans, rough start to the season, pretty good finish. Same sort of situation for the Panthers, but an even rougher start to the season and an even better finish. They're probably the hottest team in football right now, and obviously they'll have Drew Brees and Cam Newton facing off. Cam Newton, 291 out of 492 for 3,302 yards, 22 touchdowns and 16 interceptions. Very typical season for him. Never a very high completion percentage guy. Let's see what that is. 291, 492. So a 59% completion percentage a year for him again. Not a huge fan of Cam. I think he throws too many interceptions, not enough touchdowns, and not enough percent complete. Moving on, we have Drew Brees at 386 out of 536, 4,334 yards, 23 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Another solid year from Drew Brees. Could have used more touchdowns this year. Another excellent yardage year for him, always up there. I'm going to give the advantage clearly to Drew Brees in this game at the quarterback spot. Rushing leaders, and this is where I think Carolina's taken a huge hit. Cam Newton has 139 carries for 754 yards. Very good running the ball, and 6 touchdowns added to that. Mark Ingram has 230 carries for 1,124 yards and 12 touchdowns. Not to mention, let's see what Alvin Kamara did this year. Alvin Kamara himself basically had a very similar stats to Cam Newton in terms of rushing. 120 rushes for 728 yards and 8 touchdowns. So probably even a little bit better than even Newton was, and that's their leading rusher. He also has 81 catches for 826 yards and 5 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara will likely win Rookie of the Year, and he will absolutely deserve it. He's an animal. He made the Pro Bowl this year. So clearly the run game advantage goes to New Orleans. Then we have receiving leaders. We have Thomas for New Orleans, 104 catches, 1,245 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Great year for him. Funchess over in Carolina, 63 catches, 840 yards, 8 touchdowns. He did really good on the receiving touchdowns this year. But the advantage again is going to go to New Orleans on that. Even if you're just doing that because of Kamara, he adds enough in the passing game to be a real effect on the game. And he's another player with one play he can change the game. So I'm going to pick New Orleans in this. However, even though they won every single category, it'll be a much closer game than it's made it sound like when I was going over all that. I basically think that you're going to have New Orleans winning this game. I expect it to be pretty high scoring. I think we'll probably see another, let's say 35-33 will be the final, New Orleans winning. So that basically takes care of the current playoff situation for Alabama. You know, the 2 playoff games, we have Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Oklahoma. I covered both of those in this video, and then I covered the first week of the NFL playoffs. And I'll try to keep you up to date as these go on. We'll recap. We'll take a look at what our predictions were, what actually happened, and I'll just keep you all up to date as the playoff season goes on. We'll get you a pregame for the championship game in college football, and we'll try to do a reaction video after it's over. It might be a day or two after it's over, depending on how busy I am, but I want to start making videos more often for you guys, hopefully with a little bit more professional quality. Quite a few views on the video of my car. Hopefully I can make some more videos of it when I have time. But yeah, Happy New Year to everybody. I hope you all had a good Christmas. And this has been Brandon with the Manly Men channel. We'll see you all in about a week. Thanks.